What is up, everyone in the Twitterverse, everyone on Facebook, everyone on YouTube? This is Mack of All Trades, episode 3, March 11th, 2021. Michael Duncan is joining me. We might as well be calling it Mack of All Dunks at this point, right? You are on 66% of the episodes of Mack of All Trades thus far.
That's a good Dominator rating, honestly. I'm pretty proud of that.
That is a pretty good Dominator rating, huh? How old are you?
How old? 24. So a little late, I guess.
Not a great breakout age, but
no, not fantastic. But we take that.
I don't know how much we're talking about breakout candidates tonight. We really want to focus on the witching hour that is the massacre that is free agency. You can see that in the title. That's what we're going to break down today. If you've been going to theundroppables.com, you've seen a lot of our off-season outlooks in terms of articles done division by division, just breaking down based on the cap space, who we expect is leaving their current team and moving somewhere else, and then what needs or holes does that team that's losing a free agent have to fill. So, our boy Tommy Moe, he did the AFC West because he's a Raider faithful. One of our founders, Randall Kennedy, he did the NFC West because he is a 49ers fan. So we'll probably have to speak for them in regard to those, the Western divisions, but we can talk through the rest since we wrote those. That's going to be the meat of the show today. But before we jump in, Michael, you said you're doing good. You got any major calls on free agency or anything you want to get off your chest right off the top?
Yeah, actually. And that has to do with the Mark Ingram signing. I see a lot of people. So I did put this in the show notes, but I'm just going to do it now. I saw a lot of people writing off David Johnson, and I get it. But also, I don't understand the correlation because all of last year, everyone's talking about how bad Mark Ingram was, and he didn't look great. I mean, he didn't play well. So why does that all of a sudden mean that David Johnson is dead? Like, Mark Ingram is probably not going to go in there and be more of a threat than Duke Johnson was. So I don't really know why that would, in itself, destroy David Johnson's fantasy value. So that's my only, I wanted to get that off my chest. I think he's going to be even more of a value, and I don't think he's going to be like some groundbreaking league-winning RB1, but I mean, you'll probably be able to get him in like the 4th, 5th round of redraft maybe, and he's going to be a solid RB2 with a solid floor every week and maybe a ceiling game every now and then. So.
And that was in reference to David Johnson specifically, not Mark
Ingram. Oops,
not the locker room guy, Mark Ingram.
Exactly.
I tweeted to Paulie that I think Mark Ingram's just the new Frank Gore now. Or no, I tweeted that to my friend that he's basically taking over that big locker room guy role. Everyone loves him, but he's basically dust for fantasy purposes. So.
He does command a weirdly large amount of carries, though, and I would know that as an Eagles fan. We're nearing the anniversary of the 3 days when Frank Gore was an Eagle. During the legal tampering period, he signed on to be an Eagle. We were all pumped, had his jersey in my cart, and then 2 days later, he was no longer an Eagle. Hall of Famer right there.
Wow. I didn't even know about that. That is interesting. I learned something new about the Eagles every time I talk to you, Michael.
Well, I've got a lot of useless information, so
I cannot believe, that must have been in the bag for their tampering period. And yet that is why guys like Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter get extra likes and retweets and replies out of those officially official tweets where they actually finally sign the contract or get the physical done, whatever it is. That's
all it takes is one guy, and that guy was Frank Gore. So,
wow. So before we jump in,
there it is. There's my buddy in the comments. Eagles Hall of Famer Frank Gore.
So Michael, something I wanted to do with this show, because we are in the early stages. I hope to be doing this show regularly on a weekly basis, bringing new people in, talking to them not just about football, but their other interests. Hopefully, playing some games along the way. Testing your mettle of sorts, but just so to get people aware of who you are. I know you're a newer member of the Undroppables, and we didn't talk about that much on the pilot, but I'd love to hear your story of how you got into fantasy football, and also what brought you to the Undroppables.
Sure. So I didn't like football a lot growing up. I was a band nerd. I mean, I still am, I guess, but I didn't really enjoy football. I didn't get it. And then, I grew up, I grew up an Eagles fan and I like the Eagles, but I didn't really like much outside of them. And then, some point in high school, I got I think I got like a Madden game, started playing Madden on there. That got me into the NFL. And then from there, I think a buddy of mine asked me to join a fantasy league. I'd never played. And I won on the back of Marshawn Lynch, who I only drafted because of his Beastquake run the year before. So I felt really great about that. He was like a 10th round pick and he won me a league. So that was cool. And, I've been really into fantasy since, because I think it's just, it's perfect for my obsessive personality where I can just like really zone in and just obtain a bunch of information that means absolutely nothing outside of a meaningless fake game. Yeah, so I've loved it. I got into Dynasty a couple years ago. I actually started a league with a bunch of my buddies from home and school, and got into Dynasty that way. And then for the Undroppables, it was maybe 2 months ago. I saw Jax Falcone, Dino Game Theory, post on Twitter about how they needed a producer, and I went to school for music, so that was kind of right up my alley. It was just something that was pretty easy for me to do in general, and it was something that I was kind of looking to get more into, which is podcasting and using my audio background there. And so I messaged him. I talked to Chalk, our I guess the founder, co-founder, and kind of got brought on board. And they were both kind of surprised at how much other stuff I wanted to do with fantasy. Like I wanted to write, I wanted to do analysis and do all this other stuff. And that was kind of like secondary. I wanted to use the audio producing and my skills there to kind of just open that door for me to talk about fantasy more. So
that's really interesting, because I remember you mentioned at some point in our group chat, like that you have your own models or you've done some analytics work already. Like it can me compared to you, I feel like I'm just an everyman and a football guy, because I haven't gone down that route of doing team-based projections, which parlay their way into player-based projections. But is that something that you've been doing for a long time now? Or was it something you picked up like once you got into Dynasty football?
Yeah, so it was something that I picked up after Dynasty. So I guess maybe last winter, so before COVID or anything, so like a year and a half ago. The job I was working had winters off, so basically I sat around doing nothing all the time, just collecting unemployment, which was cool. But I decided I really wanted to get better at, I guess, learning more about the rookies that are coming in. And, I mean, I can watch film, that's fine, but that's not really, I don't consider myself an expert or being able to like notice the small things that guys like Tommy can do. And so I kind of started getting into analytics by following guys on Twitter like Jax, and Peter Howard was a big one. And so I sat down and I was good at math in general, and I Googled it. I taught myself how to do like linear regression and that kind of stuff that I still don't necessarily know if I fully understand, but I put it together and I just started kind of guessing and checking, seeing what I thought worked, what kind of what made sense in my head for the questions I was asking. I would ask myself a question and I would see if I can answer it. And then that led me to creating models based around that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's still something I'm working on getting better at. I'm working on improving it pretty constantly. But I enjoy it and it makes sense to me.
So basically tweaking the variables until Miles Sanders is an RB1 again, right?
Yes. Well, yeah.
I'm kidding.
That was a low blow.
I do have to say, like, it's very admirable. I mean, anyone that gets into the analytics space and dives into, trying to answer certain questions for yourself when it comes to fantasy football, like, I'm sure the vast majority, the people in their work leagues, that they're often going to the JJ Zacharyasons and the Jax Falcones of the world, and just seeing what they say and following them, and that's a great process as well. But being able to dive into some of the numbers yourself and try to make heads or tails of it, I think is super, both interesting and admirable, because you might get to, it's that intellectual curiosity where you get to answer some questions for yourself that maybe someone else hasn't thought of answering or hasn't found any like meaningful like takeaways from yet. So no, that's awesome. I like that you do that as well. Maybe you can help some of our boys in the lab with the trade calculator. I don't know.
I think Brian's got it. I don't want to touch his baby. He sounds like now that he basically goes missing for 3 days, and then he pops into the chat and he's like, "Hey guys, the calculator. It's sort of done." And we're like, Brian, we didn't think you were alive. We were about to call the cops. You haven't spoken in 3 days.
He may have been mauled by a tiger for all we know.
Yeah, or that polar bear. I love that polar bear that he sent us a picture of.
If it's white, say goodnight. That's what they say about polar bears. Let's move on to free agency, because that's what everyone's going to be, working towards, freaking out about right now. I saw, again, I don't want to belabor this right now, but Russell Wilson is trending on Twitter. So there's rumors about him going to the Bears. We're not going to talk too much about that immediately. But just talking through some of the articles that we've done and what that means for and our takeaways from actually kind of diving into the team, the cap space, who are free agents, and outside of the fantasy playmakers, who do the teams have to sign from an NFL standpoint that play a lot of snaps that doesn't matter to our plane of fantasy, but it matters to the team. So then that affects whether the Packers are going to keep Aaron Jones or not. So we're going to go division by division. We can hop around, keep it loose. And since I mentioned Aaron Jones, I think we can start right there. I think, clearly the number one back available in this free agency class. I think that, because the Packers didn't want to use the franchise tag on him, they had no intentions even from a year ago of keeping him, because they drafted A.J. Dillon, yada, yada, yada. And now he's a free agent. He deserves to get paid for the level of efficiency he's had, even on low volume. And I would love to see him at a team that can afford him and pay a little extra. That guy would just be a spark plug to an offense that might be using a middle of the road or a replacement level running back.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the most popular name has been Miami, because they have a guy in Myles Gaskin that he's a replacement level, but they just gave him such a big workload last year that he was massive for fantasy. I mean, he's like a dream come true where he looks average, but it doesn't matter. But, I'm not totally out on the idea of him returning to Green Bay. Just due to the fact that he is a running back, I don't think it's crazy to think that he goes to free agency and his market isn't necessarily what he was hoping it would be, which I feel like happens every offseason with running backs, but especially this year, with just the craziness with the cap. But it might get to a point where, he knows he's not going to get that big money contract that he was hoping he was going to get, that a lot of running backs hope they're going to get. And Green Bay calls him and he's like, look, we'll give you a 1 year deal. I don't know, 7-8 million, something like that. Something maybe a little bit above what he might get somewhere else, but maybe just right on track. And the comfort of it all sends him back to Green Bay. I don't think it's a given, obviously, because all it takes is one team to want to pay a running back like Aaron Jones. But I think it's definitely more of a possibility than it might seem like it.
I think Miami has the cap space to pull it off, and they've got enough other weapons. And Aaron Jones is actually good in the pass game, which you'd think, the way everyone talks about Tua, that Aaron Jones would help with that skill set. And they can still use Myles Gaskin to spell, but that would spell trouble for his fantasy future. Obviously, he and both Savon Ahmed got a ton of reps last season, but really those are replacement level guys. So I wrote the NFC North free agency preview so we can run through this. I think that it would be way more of a business decision for them to just keep A.J. Dillon on his rookie deal and re-sign Jamal Williams. If Jamal Williams wants to be a Packer forever, which he has said, then he was the one who's more likely to take the pay cut than Aaron Jones. And I think that means they would still have those two kind of being that dynamic duo in the Packers backfield. And there's some other guys that I think the Packers definitely need to re-sign as well, like Corey Linsley and Rick Wagner. Of course, I misspelled Ricky, so just going to hand up on that. And I think they have to re-sign at least one pass catcher, which just is going to leave Aaron Jones high and dry.
So Tanyan's a restricted free agent, right? Are they both restricted free agents?
Tanyan is a restricted free agent.
Okay.
So
he has to be back. I'd be very shocked.
If they put a second or third round tender on him, I haven't heard that they have yet. But if they did, then they get, I think, like a compensatory pick. If
the team that signed him.
Like,
the team that signs him would have to send if they put a 3rd round tender or a 2nd round tender, the team that signs him would have to send over that 3rd or 2nd round pick. Plus they would have to pay Robert Tonyan, obviously. That's why like Gus Edwards isn't going anywhere, because they put a 2nd round tender on him. No team is going to sign Gus Edwards for whatever they're going to sign him, plus send a 2nd round pick over to the Ravens.
And I don't know what that means for how much when the Ravens put a 2nd round tender on Gus Edwards, which we'll talk about, do they have to then pay more because they put a higher round tender on the player?
Yeah, the tender does equate to a certain amount of money. The better the pick, the higher the amount they have to pay.
Sure.
Which is the kind of risk reward, I guess, of doing it that way. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure similar to franchise tags, like they're based on the salaries of other people in the NFL at that position. So also, it doesn't look like Tanyan's been tendered. So.
Yeah, I'm just searching him on Twitter, see if anything pops up, and the one I see is him somersaulting into a touchdown against the Falcons. So you love to see it. I always thought the restricted free agent also gave the team that currently has the place a tender on him to match whatever another team offers too, and that might be something different.
I think you're right.
It's more likely that Tonyan. It's more likely that Tonyan stays and then Lazard leaves, but they could end up signing both of those guys if they work out the contracts the right way. So
Lazard feels like a guy who's going to get lost in this deep free agent class of wide receivers, and will just kind of come back on either like a 1 year for like a couple million, or maybe like a 2 year, slightly better deal.
I could see maybe he'll go to the Lions or the Bears. I know probably not the Bears because they got a lot of holes to fill in different ways, but the Lions obviously letting go of Kenny Golladay, who we want to highlight next. They have already spent money on Tyrell Williams as a veteran presence, which is kind of weird.
Yep.
But
yeah, that kind of surprised me. I mean, I guess you need someone to catch passes, but I was surprised it was Tyrell Williams.
I guess at this point they probably will have Tyrell there to replace Marvin Jones, because you can sign a different veteran with similar skill set, but maybe not as talented as Jones, and not have to pay Jones too much. Like Jones can go somewhere else to get more money. And then they're not tagging Golladay. I thought I saw something on Twitter that Golladay wanted like $18 million a year. Like he's going to potentially be the highest paid wide receiver out of this class for anyone that goes out and pays him. So
now he's gonna. I mean, with Allen Robinson and Chris Godwin both getting the tag, there's almost no doubt in my mind that Golladay is going to make the most, just because he's going to get a long-term deal. I mean, with supply and demand, and there's a lot of demand and very little supply now.
Robinson getting the tag is crazy to me. I think that now there's a good chance that he actually stays there. But hey, if they get Russell Wilson, I mean, anything can happen at this point.
Yeah.
With Golladay, are there any teams that stick out in your mind that would go out of their way to sign him? I always think of Arizona coming to mind for some reason, but they already
it'd be interesting.
J.J. Watt. And we know they basically have Hopkins and that's it. Like the other guys are struggling to break out and become like a legitimate contributor week in and week out for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So that's a tough sitch. And I know the Ravens already went out of their way to say they're not going to pick anyone up there, which is really, I mean, they could go after a discount guy. I don't know if Juju can make it to the Ravens or if he wants to go there, but
that would be highly entertaining.
I think
if Juju, of all people, went to the Ravens, that would be entertaining.
We talked about how Juju would definitely be the spiteful enough person. If we're making any assumptions about his character and TikTok and whatnot, him going to the Ravens just to stick it to the Steelers twice a year, I could see him wanting to do that. But he's not going to get paid nearly as much. As soon as the Ravens said that they wanted to, or that they were not going to go after an alpha, a high top tier wide receiver, I assume that meant okay, Corey Davis is going to be a wide receiver one then.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Ravens would sooner sign a bigger name at tight end, which I know I feel like sounds insane when you say that because when I say that because Mark Andrews is there. But they've run so much 2 tight end and a lot of 3 tight end in the past. And I think part of their issues on offense last year was the departure of Hayden Hurst and also the one dude who was there the year before. But yeah, I think their offense took a step back, and part of that was because I think Lamar Jackson is better suited to throw to guys like Mark Andrews, the tight ends, and then you have Marquise Brown over the top and going deep and that kind of stuff kind of fills that role. Everything else, it seems like a lot of, breaking in routes and easier completions to complement the running game. I mean, it not just fantasy wise. I just don't want Kenny Golladay there because of fantasy. I also just don't think it'd be a good fit.
Oh, definitely. I don't think Galladay is going to go there. I know Ryan, Fantasy Pros, he said, Galladay and Jones could both go to Miami, which, if we're talking about Aaron Jones going to Miami, that might be wishful thinking. But I want to jump down our list here, Michael, because we talk about, players that might be interesting or could be used in unique ways, and you don't have to pay as much. I feel like Curtis Samuel is getting a ton of hype in that regard, because he showed in Carolina he can run in different ways. That he showed that, obviously he's had games where he gets deeper targets as well.
Yeah.
So he has a lot of versatility to his game. And I'm wondering, it would be pretty crazy if they put him and Marquise Brown on the same receiver core and just tried to create this wild, run first, but super deceptive. You don't know who's going to get the ball, pre-snap type of offense in Baltimore. I feel like we are saying, me saying Corey Davis before that is because I think they need a possession receiver that just get them the 10 yards, 3rd and 6, just convert on 3rd and 6. But if they went Curtis Samuel, it's basically them tripling down on a certain play style.
Yeah. I will say I had not really thought about Curtis Samuel to Baltimore before you said that. And now that you said it, that's really interesting because he is such a unique weapon in the way that they used him in Carolina last year. And as an owner of both DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, it was extremely painful how often they used him and how much they used him. But that's really interesting because I think if the coaching, and I don't remember who their offensive coordinator is, but if their coaching staff was willing to put that into the playbook and use him the way that he should be used, it would be great. But there's just so many offensive minds in the NFL that wouldn't do that or don't do that already. That I'm not sure, but that's really interesting.
As far as I know, the offensive coordinator is still Greg Roman, and he was the guy who really helped Colin Kaepernick and the 49ers become this really run-heavy, unique offense that couldn't be stopped. And I know they ran all over the Packers one NFC Championship game all around. It's funny because I feel like Curtis Samuel, and I'd much rather talk about him than Will Fuller because we've got him on the list too. Will Fuller to the Packers, please. That's all I'm going to say. But
just someone to the Packers, man. Just honestly, Curtis Samuel to the Packers. I don't care. Just someone.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. Samuel has also been projected to the Packers as a Randall Cobb type. I feel like I've seen Samuel projected to the Washington football team because they need a receiver.
And the Ron Rivera connection.
Yeah, and they could get someone to the draft too. But I'm sure I've seen Samuel to a couple other spots, but those are the ones that come to mind. It's okay, well, if Samuel is such a versatile player and he's getting this much hype, he could, especially if he has the right agent, he could get played a lot to go to a variety of teams. And he's pretty much, outside of Kenny Golladay, Aaron Jones, and maybe Juju, he's the belle of the ball in this free agent class. He's getting topped up more than a lot of other guys.
And that's what I was thinking about was just, in any other year when the cap wasn't doing this, Curtis Samuel is the poster boy for that guy that is going to get paid way too much. He's that wide receiver that he was in a situation where he flashed and it's oh, that's awesome. He looks like he could be really good. And I say this as an Eagles fan that just wants to sign all of those wide receivers all the time because we never had any. But Robbie Anderson, they flash and they're oh, we need to give him a big contract so they can come and be our number one. Tyrell Williams, another great example. And I'm not saying Curtis Samuel is going to be a flop wherever he goes, but he is the poster boy for that type of free agent where they're just getting paid way too much because the question mark surrounding them means they have a huge ceiling. Whether or not that's likely for them to hit it, it doesn't matter. The team is going to overpay because they want that weapon and the possibility of that upside. And it's going to be interesting to see in a year like this, when the cap is doing what it is, what Curtis Samuel will fetch on the open market, because he is such a, like, he's not a prototypical wide receiver in a lot of ways. He's not, like, if you're not lining him up in the backfield or giving him handoffs at least, like, 5 a game or something, I feel like you're probably using him wrong. So he's very different in that way, which is really cool, actually.
Yeah, he's certainly interesting, and maybe he even re-signs to Carolina and just takes a team-friendly deal.
I hope
given
not.
what the cap is, but I'm a big DJ Moore truther, so
Me too.
I hope not as well. We talked about a few different receivers. Let's talk about tight end, because I'm really interested about 2 different guys who neither of which got tagged. Well, Hunter Henry got tagged last year, but didn't get tagged a second year in a row. And then Jonnu Smith. I assume it's pronounced that way. Some people say Jonnu Smith, and I always
No, it's Jonnu. I'm
pretty sure it's Jonnu. Yeah, so Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, different types of players in my mind. I feel like Hunter Henry's super consistent. He's shown a lot from a young age in terms of his production in the NFL. And then Jonnu Smith is just this athletic beast who last year I was thinking, this guy in fantasy could be the next Darren Waller, because just look at how ripped he is. And he's not even as old as Darren Waller yet. But I think that ended up being Logan Thomas at the end of the season.
Yep.
It seems like both these guys are going to go to different teams. And I feel like the neediest team in the tight end department is probably either Cincinnati or Jacksonville.
New England also.
Yeah, New England, despite them having
they need everything. But
in back-to-back picks last season. And the Patriots it feels like they need everything. So I don't know what to think with New England at all, but I mean, either of these guys in Cincinnati, I think, would be pretty hot. That's what you had said in your AFC North breakdown, right?
That or Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, or Kyle Pitts. I loved reading through, the benefit of being the editor-in-chief for the undroppables.com is that you get to read almost everyone's article that goes up on the site and see all of the awesome stuff that we have. I want to pull that article up because it piqued my interest in a lot of different ways. One, I think you mentioned that the OBJ could go to the Packers, and it was like, okay, well, OBJ is always mentioned in trade rumors, but I'd love to, I'll believe it when I see it, when OBJ gets traded somewhere.
And that's the way I feel about most of these trade rumors. I mean, with the exception of Carson Wentz, and mainly Carson Wentz, just because I knew how tumultuous that situation was. With everyone else, it's like, yeah, sure, Russell Wilson's going to get traded, I guess, maybe. I'm not going to believe it until the day that Adam Schefter tweets it. So,
yeah, no, I'm with you there. I could totally see it though. And then they run a lot more multi-tight end sets. Like you mentioned, there's potential for David Njoku to leave because they've got Harrison Bryant, the rookie who flashed last year. They've got Austin Hooper they're locked in to a contract with. And
Austin Hooper, I believe, has a pretty decent out in his contract next season. So I mean, David Njoku, if he doesn't get traded this year, he will be a free agent next season, I'm fairly sure. So it'll be interesting if they just decide, hey, we're just going to go with Harrison Bryant. I mean, I don't think Austin Hooper, he was fine last year, but that signing never really made sense to me in general anyway. So
yeah, it was kind of weird, but it felt like I was convincing myself because of Austin Hooper that it fell into the Kevin Stefanski game plan.
Yes, which is very fair. I mean, he runs a lot of two tight ends. So
but there are places where Njoku could land even this year. If he's under contract, I feel like he'd stay, but unless they could get something good for him, but I'm more interested in, well, one, you mentioned with the Bengals. What I didn't know is you said CJ Uzomah, I believe, they save some dead cap if he gets cut.
Yeah, they save $5 million, and I think it's only $1 million in dead cap.
And he got just banged by an ACL injury, so it's tough for him because he was just coming on with Burrow, right when that injury happened. And now, some people in the depths of Dynasty, I think some people might be a little hyped on Drew Sample, but it's more likely.
That was me last year.
It's more likely
nobody should be hyped about Drew Sample.
Yeah, that's my thought too. I actually traded him straight up for Van Jefferson in a league, so I know my guy Paulie will like
good
that.
for you.
So Sample, it sounds like Sample's not gonna cut it, especially on a low sample size. But with them bringing someone in as a free agent, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be anyone in division like Njoku or. It'd be interesting. I'd love to see Jonnu Smith there if he could get more opportunity there. But I feel like Hunter Henry's the more of the downfield threat, and Jonnu's more of the yards after the catch guy. So it would be interesting to see if either of those guys got there and that they play or coach to their skill set. But it's interesting. The other thing in this article I found to be interesting was the Pittsburgh Steelers, because obviously Big Ben's already taken a different contract or adjusted it so they have some room this year. I believe Bud Dupree on the defensive side is a free agent as well.
They have a lot. They have a lot of big name defensive free agents.
And James Conner is going to hit free agency. But one thing we talked about in the clubhouse last week was Conner might just be the hometown hero, take a team-friendly deal just to stick in Pittsburgh because he's always been there. And he hasn't really earned a contract anywhere to go out and get paid anywhere else. But in terms of tight end, I didn't realize Eric Ebron might be a cap casualty. So he must have signed like a 1-year deal last year, and now a guy.
Yeah, he signed a 2-year deal, I think. But it was front loaded. There was always going to be an out after 1 year if it didn't work out. And I thought he was fine last year. I mean, for fantasy, he was okay. He was startable most weeks. I mean, the tight end position is such a shit show anyway. It doesn't really matter. But I mean. I think both with the Steelers and the Bengals, that's a big position. I would love to see them upgrade, especially the Bengals, because Joe Burrow likes to throw to the tight end. I would love to see Joe Burrow with Kyle Pitts. That would be incredible. Because Drew Sample is a good blocking tight end. I think he was a 2nd-round pick a couple years back. And he's fine at catching the ball, but I mean, he's nothing special. So I personally would love to see Kyle Pitts in Cincinnati or one of the free agents. I think Jonnu would actually be a better fit there. I feel like he fits what they need out of a tight end a little bit more, which is more of a security blanket. Maybe that's Hunter Henry. I don't know. Anything's better than Drew Sample is the need of it. But I can't see the Steelers. I mean, I could see them cutting Eric Ebron, but I don't think they're in the market for one of these top guys. I feel like it would have to be like I think I even pointed out like a 2nd-rounder on Pat Freiermuth or Brevin Jordan. Yeah. Because they need talent there, but I don't know if they can really spend money on it.
You mentioned Eric Ebron did great in Pittsburgh. He had 91 targets from Roethlisberger last year. I think that, Roethlisberger showed a willingness to feed the tight end. I'd love to see a restructuring of that contract, to be honest, because I had no expectation of Ebron going to free agency. And I think that they can probably work their money around in different ways for kind of some better deals for the team there. Or like keeping the right core together. Like let Juju go so you have some cap space for your incoming rookies, but
I mean, you have Johnson and Washington and Claypool. Not to say that you don't need Juju. I mean, he'd be great to have there, but
they're gonna just keep drafting wide receivers and keep developing them. It's gonna be
so frustrating.
Juju goes somewhere else. So it's gonna be Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, James Washington on a team-friendly deal, and cutting back to Jonnu, Brian says, him going back to Tennessee, I would love that. I really want them to re-sign him, even though they didn't tag him. I don't know how that works money-wise, but they must think that the tight end market can't be that strong if tight end's more of a.
I don't think Jonnu is going to get good money.
Yeah, like they could just say, come back. You're going to come crawling back to me once you find out that the market isn't good for tight ends right now. I mean, it doesn't look good for linemen. That's something we wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Chiefs, I don't know. They're gonna trade for Andre Dillard. I am beginning that campaign. Andre Dillard being former Eagles 1st-round pick that we traded up for, who decided he could not play right tackle, even though he was a 1st-round pick, and I'm very angry at him for it.
On another 1st-round pick.
I am more than ready. I don't want to cut him, but I want to get a 3rd-round pick for him. I would love a 3rd-round pick for him because we have Jordan Mailata. Whatever.
cut bait. It's just a figure of speech.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm ready to cut bait, but not if it's just cutting him. If you're giving me a 3rd round pick to cut bait with him, sure, that's fine with me. I like Jordan Mailata better anyway.
I got you. Yeah, I want to pull up, since we talked about it, the offensive line woes.
See, yeah, he gets it.
Let me share my screen here again.
No, not for free.
Trying to come up with a great viewing experience here, so you're not always staring at the screen, but we bring it up when it matters. So Brad Wire, he's our offensive line expert, alongside Tommy Moe with the Undroppables. He tweeted this out earlier today. This is the updated free agent offensive line. A lot of guys that you probably, even if you're not super deep into the free agency or like the offensive line streets, you might recognize some of these names.
There's a lot of big names.
We mentioned Corey Linsley at the top. Alex Mack's name always feels like he pops up in here. David Andrews, Kyle Long.
Joe Thuney's a big one. I hope he goes to Cincinnati. Yeah. I want to put that out in the universe for Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon as well. So,
is the red, those are all the guys that got cut for cap, or because Riley Reif was released, I believe, by the Vikings earlier. I don't know where
cut, because I think Thuney was just a free agent. Kyle Long, I think red was specifically cut.
And he tweeted this before Schwartz from the Chiefs and the other guy from the Chiefs were cut. So
Eric Fisher.
It shows, a ton of guys out there. I feel like the only guy that has been retained so far is Cam Robinson for the Jaguars.
Yeah, he signed the franchise tag. Also, apparently it's pronounced Thuney.
I thought it was Thuney as well. I don't want to correct you live on air, but if other people
you can make a fool of me of live on air. That's fine.
I didn't realize Villanueva is a free agent too. That's pretty crazy. I mean, obviously Tyrell Williams is huge potential.
He'll go back to San Francisco, I think.
Yeah. That's what I would think too. But a lot of guys where, hopefully a lot of these guys, if you're a fan of their team from 2020, that they re-sign. But if the Seahawks want to keep Russell Wilson around instead of trying to trade him, like, use your cap space to build up this line. You've got enough opportunity to sign some different guys here instead of DJ Fluker and I mean Jermaine Fetty was on the Seahawks before the Bears. Like a lot of options here. Like come on, Seahawks. We're gonna come back to this. You can't let Russell Wilson go. You just can't do it.
Poor Russ. Just make him happy. Like, good Lord. If you keep Pete Carroll and trade Russell Wilson, I lose hope in everything. Also, this is interesting. I had not thought at all about Juju going to Washington football team. So that's very interesting.
Yeah. I've heard that. I've heard them drafting someone. We haven't talked much about that, but of all the names we've talked about, I want to point out two names of guys that aren't leaving their current team, but that I think could be affected by free agency pretty significantly. Let's start with Terry McLaurin, since we're on Washington football team.
Okay.
Terry McLaurin, obviously being a target hog the last 2 years, he was kind of underrated coming from the draft. And now there's a lot of rumors that they could sign. I mean, we talked about Curtis Samuel going to Washington. We talked about Juju going there.
Kenny Golladay, that's another popular place for him.
Golladay. And obviously the 2021 wide receiver class is stacked. So maybe there's a lot of teams that are just like, well, we're going to target wide receiver in the draft. So come hell or high water, it seems like Terry McLaurin is going to have another wide receiver opposite him. And we don't really know what the quarterback situation is there either. Are you like bearish on Terry McLaurin going into at least the 2021 season? And then how do you feel about him long term?
So I've never really known. I feel like I've always been very neutral on Terry McLaurin. I think he's really talented. But the toughest part for me is I've never fully bought into the Washington football team offense. I think when Ron Rivera's there, I think they're going to be generally run first, especially with Gibson being as good as he is because he's awesome. Which in general, not great for your wide receiver. If they do bring in another guy like a Kenny Golladay, who I don't think is going to be a target hog, I think he's going to be a different type of deep threat than Terry McLaurin. Or even Juju. Juju might take targets away from Terry McLaurin. I think Terry McLaurin is extremely talented, but until we know more about the quarterback situation, it's hard to feel good about another wide receiver coming to town, because with bad quarterbacks, if there's 2 targets, there's normally not enough fantasy points to support both of them. Sure, if you're in Kansas City and you've got Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, that's awesome because you have Patrick Mahomes. But even then, there's not really a third option on that offense that is consistently supported by that quarterback. Now you go to Washington and you don't know who's at quarterback. Maybe it's Taylor Heineke. Great. Sure. Whatever. You've got Terry McLaurin, who is great, very talented. But then after that, you've got Antonio Gibson, who I think will get more involved in the passing game. You've got Logan Thomas, who broke out last year and I think is legitimately talented. If they bring in another wide receiver, I think Terry McLaurin might be more efficient, but I don't know if that's necessarily good enough for his fantasy value. I think he might actually be overvalued if they don't do something legitimate with the quarterback situation.
I think it depends on how
guy comes in.
Yeah, I think it depends on how good the quarterback is, because you need a quarterback that's good enough to support that many weapons with the amount of volume or limited volume they might get, like spread across more guys. So I think
the better the offense, the better the pieces in it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, which I think is going to lead us almost, at least for me personally, into our next topic.
It is. I'm going to lead into this one trade because this is Mack of all trades. So I want to talk some dynasty trades. I've been itching to do these. And I want to talk about one trade and then jump back to something that I think we have to talk about in terms of free agents. So the one trade, if we can get to one today, I wanted to talk about one I did last weekend in one of Chalk's leagues, at Chalk Leagues on Twitter. I think those are great. I got invited to one by a friend at Sam Hoppin. And I've really loved how my team has turned out in this. I think I like it even more with this trade. So
yeah, I love this trade.
This is a 14-team league. I sent Terry McLaurin and Rashad Penny, and I received Deontay Johnson and A.J. Dillon.
Is this so it's 14-team Superflex, not Superflex? How many starting wide receivers?
So it's 1 QB, 2 wide receivers, and there's 2 flex spots. So I can start to 4 guys. I traded some picks and I believe Ayuk for Stephon Diggs last year because I've been kind of in win now mode, but I was able to get a lot of those rookie wide receivers from 2020 on my team. So I'm still holding on to T. Higgins, and I'm still holding on to Chase Claypool as well. And so I didn't want having Deontay and Claypool on the same team to hinder this trade from happening. So I was just like, I'm going arrow up on Steelers wide receivers. That's a little bit risky with Roethlisberger, but I feel like for 2021, at least we know Roethlisberger's there. We don't know who's the starting Washington football team quarterback is. So I loved that, and I loved the swap of Penny for Dillon because at this point I can't have any hopes in Penny getting on the field unless Chris Carson leaves and Carlos Hyde is dust, and somehow Penny is the guy in Seattle this year. Then I'll have egg on my face. But other than that, like I feel Deontay and McLaurin is super close now, and I
like Deontay almost significantly more than McLaurin, which feels really weird to say because I feel like I'm actually lower on McLaurin than I think I am. Again, I think he's really talented, but I like Deontay a lot.
Yeah, I think it's close enough where even if it is a downgrade, what Christian is saying, like A.J. Dillon, I am projecting Aaron Jones to leave. I'm projecting A.J. Dillon to get a huge bump in involvement, even if it's not this year, maybe next year, as everyone, myself included, loves to equate him to Derrick Henry. We can see A.J. Dillon slowly getting more opportunity in a Matt LaFleur offense. So I love that trade, and I'm going to stand by it for now. If I have to deal Johnson or Claypool down the road, then I will try to make up for any mistakes made there. But
I'm all for it. I don't know how I feel about Rashad Penny. So quick story to go along with him. So my first Dynasty League, it was his rookie year. That's when I started Dynasty, and I took him in our startup. He was my second running back that I took. That didn't work out. So I've long been a Rashad Penny truther and really wanting him to work out. I finally dealt him this, I I think it was the very beginning of the offseason or like the end of the season, like right at our trade deadline. I sent him to my cousin whose team was in dead last, and I got like 2 or 3 just like spread out picks, like second and thirds over this year and next year. So I felt good about that. Obviously, knowing that Rashad Penny has that ceiling of, I mean, he was drafted in the first round. He is talented, and we've seen it before. But I personally think that, you know, with 3 lost seasons, you got the better end of that trade by far. I mean, I like Deontay Johnson better than I like Terry McLaurin. And as much as I like Rashad Penny, I think A.J. Dillon is just, at this point, I would much rather bet on him to produce than Rashad Penny. And that's pretty easy for me. I like your side significantly better.
I do like being 824 Ever's comment here. Like, go ahead and buy Penny if you can go and buy him dirt cheap, or go trade for him, go acquire him. Don't buy him. Go acquire him in deeper leagues, because you don't have to expect much. Keep expectations low. You are swapping, like, you know, low investment, and there's an opportunity he could become the lead back. But in this case, if I had to throw in Penny to get a combination of Deontay and A.J. Dillon, I love the swap there. So
his floor is 0 points, and his ceiling realistically is a top 10 running back. And that's,
well, it's, I mean,
that's the insane part of it.
Because how likely is top 10 running back going to happen?
Well, that's what I mean. There's maybe like a 5% chance.
He's going to be better than Chris Carson at this point. Like,
well, Chris Carson's a free agent. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
there is, and that's the big thing. There is no one in Seattle right now. There's no one under contract except Rashad Penny and Alex Collins, Travis Homer, and whatever rookie they drafted last year.
If Penny takes over, it's going to end up being a James Robinson situation from 2020, where he's the only guy in town and he's getting a ton of opportunity because all Pete Carroll wants to do is
DJ Dallas. Thank you.
Or they drafted DJ Dallas, but best player will play. And that gets me to our next point of another player who could very well be impacted by free agency. So going back to this, we talked about Mclaren before being affected by a new receiver coming in, less targets. James Robinson has been a hot topic of conversation. I'm not going to bring up the tweet that Chalk put out yesterday, but
no, call him out.
No, because
I want to call Chalk out. I disagree with Chalk completely. So
I'll bring it up, but it's so generic, and there's some back and forth on Twitter, like within this.
No, that's fair.
Within this tweet, that, like, I don't want to get into the, like, for me, as someone who's hyper analytic, he's sharing a line of thought about a hand grenade, and like what he's basically trying to say, and you can read it for yourself. I'm not going to read it out loud, but I think this was a James Robinson tweet. I think he was talking about how James Robinson is basically a hand grenade because he was an undrafted rookie, and if they bring someone in that's going to torpedo his value, he blows up in your face, and you have nothing in terms of value anymore.
He already went 0 to hero. He's pointing out there's a possibility that he goes 0 to 0 just as quickly.
My point.
To quote the great Hercules.
Great movie, great song, greater song. My point in this, and I think I side with Terminator on this, Randall Kennedy, is that both things can be true. They can sign another running back, and James Robinson can still get the majority of touches and be the best producer in the Jacksonville Jaguars backfield. Because just Urban Meyer saying we want to bring some competition in, like, they brought in competition last year when they signed Chris Thompson, and Chris Thompson didn't do anything. I'm not saying that Raekwon Armstead or Devine Ozigbo is going to take over James Robinson's job or be competition. So they bring in like Marlon Mack, who's got an Achilles injury, or they bring in someone like Jerick McKinnon, who plays a complementary role to James Robinson.
And also has torn his ACL like 8 times.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that when people see that, I think they think that, oh, Aaron Jones is going to get signed, and then that's going to take over James Robinson. But to Randall's point, to Term's point, they have so many other positions on the roster to fill through the draft and through free agency.
They have the first overall pick. Like, they're not a good team.
There are plenty of people in our space and in the NFL space that say running back is like the last position that you draft for, you invest in when you're going for it in terms of trying to win a Super Bowl. It's what the Chiefs did with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They spent that capital on him. They're like, we don't have any other positions of need right now. We're going to go for running back, and that's going to help us. Didn't work out that way for the Chiefs, but I digress. I think that it would be a waste for them to go and get another running back that is like, once they sign him, we know he's better than James Robinson. So anyone they do bring in is not going to be as good as James Robinson was last year. Yes, they'll take opportunity away, but Robinson is still going to be, I think, a top leverage pick in your drafts. Like if you're trying to get, a running back who's going to see a lot of opportunity. If his ADP falls into the 4th, 5th round, that gets into the dead zone of running backs,
that's easy.
I don't like it as much. But we'll know that before we have to draft him and redraft. In Dynasty, you got him for free if you have him. I never believed in overpaying for him because he was undrafted.
Yep.
And if you're selling him, it's because you think, like, I want to just get as much as I can. I want to sell the top, like we like to do in NBA Top Shot. And that's fine. Like, but it's also completely fine to hold him and just ride the wave because you got him for free. Like, I don't have a problem with that. And it feels like it's this super heated debate based on us trying to project how much opportunity he's actually going to get. So I'll get off my soapbox. I think you and I are on the same page on this.
Yeah, I will say this quickly because I think we agree. And I think Chalk and Term actually agreed more than they thought they did. But I'll just say this, like, James Robinson is a good player. I thought that before the draft. I thought it after he went undrafted, and I thought it last year when he was like the RB6 or something at the end of the season. At the end of the day, Trevor Lawrence is going to be the first overall pick. Jacksonville is going to be a better team than they were last year. God, I hope. Unless, okay, they're going to be a better team. They're going to be a better offense. They're going to bring someone in because, of course, they are. No one actually is a 99% workload unless your name is Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey, and that's fine because they're going to be on a more efficient offense just due to the fact that their quarterback is Trevor Lawrence and not Gardner Minshew and whomever else started for them last year. And I think last year they were dead last in the league in, and I might be wrong on this, but I believe it was rushing attempts and rushing touchdowns. And yes, James Robinson had 99% of them, but think of what happens if they go from 32nd to 20th, more middle of the pack. So that adds maybe 50 to 75 attempts on a better game script because they're going to be winning more games, hopefully. Exactly. So what if he loses, 10% of the total carries if the total carries go up and the total rushing touchdowns go up? That's really all that matters. If they sign Aaron Jones, yes, that's fine. That
ain't happening. It ain't happening. I'll eat.
I don't think anyone's going to argue if they sign Aaron Jones.
I won't eat anything but egg on my face if Aaron Jones goes to Jacksonville.
Like, yeah,
it's not their need.
No, and maybe, and I think it was Brian who said this in our chat, and he made a good point. And this is the only point that I will hear on the opposite side is assuming rational decisions is the first mistake, and that's true. Because assuming rational decisions is hard, we shouldn't do it. We continue to do it, and that's fine. But I am going to continue to assume that they are not going to spend either a first-round pick on a running back or sign Aaron Jones in free agency. If they do, fine. Whatever. I'm an idiot. It is what it is. But I'm going to assume that they're not because that would be really dumb. So, I think we're generally speaking, we're on the same page.
All of fantasy is assumptions and projections. We're football pigskin weathermen, or what did I say? Pigskin prognosticators, weathermen of the gridiron. It's ridiculous. Like I can have it, I'll victory lap when I get the take right, and I'll go in my corner and log off of Twitter when I'm wrong. It's fine. But this is just what we think. Believe us or not, like it'll be. I'm going to get off my soapbox again. Michael and I are on the same page. I think most of us are on the same page.
At this point, we're just arguing with air.
Ourselves. Yeah. Hit us up in the mentions or the DMs on Twitter at Andrew Mackens, let me see if I get this right, MP Duncan 75. Thought it was 72, but 75. And you see sharing on the screen, this is under latest content on the undroppables.com. These are the 4 latest articles we have out, all different divisional previews for free agency. So check those out over the weekend. I still have to grind out the NFC South preview, which I I think we'll mostly focus on the quarterback situations there, but a lot of football talk on this show. I really appreciate those of you that are still viewing or those of you that have chimed in. Make sure to check us out at The Undroppables on Twitter, theundroppables.com. We're going to get into the fun part of the show, and then we are going to jump
I thought that was fun.
Yeah, no,
I love
I've
arguing with Aaron.
time, but the non-football,
the more fun.
non-football part.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then we're going to jump into Clubhouse. So if you have Clubhouse and search for Mack of All Trades, you will find our after show there. So we'll just be shooting the breeze there. But Michael and I were shooting the shit before this, and I mentioned I do want to start getting into more trivia things while we have new guests on. And I've only done undroppable guests so far. If you want to come on and do a trivia challenge, DM me, and we will have a football conversation. We'll talk about, you know, your own foray into fantasy football. And
whether
then
or not you like James Robinson.
And then I will come up with trivia questions to challenge your expertise in a particular category.
All right.
Michael and I have found that we are both pretty big Marvel MCU heads, and we got into some group chat last weekend. We were big on WandaVision, so a lot of exciting things happening there. We're super pumped for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which we'll probably talk about in Clubhouse. But all of that has come to this, Michael.
Oh, man.
9 questions, so you can't go 5.
9? Okay.
You're going to go plus or you're going to go minus. And hopefully you get all 9 right. Hopefully you get all 9 right. But we're going to run through these. We'll probably go over 8 o'clock, but that's fine. And we'll show up to the Clubhouse when we show up.
It's worth it.
I'm going to run through these, and I'll try to give you like 30 seconds to a minute for each. So
okay. I was talking a big game. I'm nervous. I was talking a really big game before this, but now I'm nervous.
I was like, I'm going to try to keep some of them simple, but let's see if I can stump them on a few. So,
okay.
Question number 1. What is the name of the containment device that houses the time stone in Doctor Strange?
Oh, I don't know the answer. Doctor Strange is one of my least favorite MCU movies, and I've definitely watched it the least amount of times. And I'm really angry because you're going to say it, and I'm going to know it, and I
guess you don't know. I got to turn up.
I don't have the answer.
I got to do that again, higher volume. Hopefully this comes through. No answer there. No guess.
Really bad start.
The answer is the Eye of Agamotto.
Oh, yep. Because the Agamotto is that ancient wizard dude. Yep.
So
I'm already upset with myself.
On to question number 2. What does Tony Stark call Peter Parker at the start of the airport scene in Captain America Civil War? Yes, the answer is Underoos.
I like that.
That is a correct answer.
Spider-Man's my boy, dude.
You're 1 for 2. I figured you'd get that one. Okay.
I love him.
Question 3. In what city do the films Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp take place?
San Francisco, right?
Correct.
Perfect. All right. Now we're feeling good.
You're getting on a roll here.
Now I'm going.
What is the introductory song that soundtracks Tony Stark's entrance to his own expo in Iron Man 2?
Oh, it's AC/DC. But is it the same? Is it Back in Black?
Is that your final answer?
No, hold on.
I should be saying that for every one of them, but
I'm gonna go with Back in Black. I know that one plays in Iron Man 1, and I'm pretty sure it's in Far From Home, but I haven't seen Iron Man 2 in forever. Oh, shit.
It is Shoot to Thrill by
God damn it.
A much better song than Back in Black, in my opinion, but
I do like Shoot to Thrill a lot. Very underrated.
Much more popular. Okay. This one might be easier. In Black Panther, what is the name of the villain who meets his untimely death at the hands of Killmonger after helping him find his way to Wakanda? So he helps Killmonger find the way to Wakanda, and then for a hint, he gets shot.
Yeah, I know.
He's in like the first half.
It's Andy Serkis.
Yep, I was going to put that in there too, played by Andy Serkis.
It's Andy Serkis. He's missing a hand. What is his name? God, he's in Age of Ultron.
He is in Age of Ultron.
Oh, my Lord. I have 30 seconds, right?
Yeah. I'll give you some time because I'm making sure I realize how many of these you got right.
I hate this. I should know this.
You've been going
really
pretty
easy.
fast. You've been going pretty fast on the other one, so I'm.
I
time here.
God damn it! This deserves to be up there. God damn it! It's Andy Serkis plays.
You want me to read it again because I don't have the text up?
Yeah.
In Black Panther, what is the name of the villain who meets his untimely death at the hands of Killmonger after helping him find his way to Wakanda?
Oh, it's Claw. It's is it Ulysses Claw? Is that his full name?
Yes.
It's Claw.
Yes.
Okay. I knew it was there. Thank God.
Oh my God. What a pull. What a pull.
I was gonna be angry if I got that wrong.
That was so awesome. I probably would have given it to you if you did just Claw. He's not getting bodied anymore.
Yeah, take that, John. Idiot. That's my friend. He's the one who told me I was
all right. So you are 3 of 2 so far. We got 4 questions left.
All
so
right.
you have a good chance to
winning record
to get more than a winning record, but also even better. I think I might have put some hard questions up front. So next question. In Guardians of the Galaxy, who is the leader of a clan of spacefaring smugglers known as the Ravagers?
This is another one. It's played by Michael Rooker. He's blue. He's Mary Poppins, y'all. I suck with names. Oh God. It's Can I have the Jeopardy theme so there's not just dead space?
I mean, yeah.
Sing the Jeopardy theme. You got this.
Look it up on YouTube.
It's
Yeah,
there you go. You got this. Yondu. It's Yondu.
Yes.
I hate names.
Another
Jesus.
poll again. Well, what's funny is I thought about putting actors' names in here, and you would be like so much faster to the punch.
It's so backwards with everything else. Like normally I suck with actors, but the only actors I know are the ones in the MCU because I'm constantly like, I don't know, I just think about it too much.
No, that tracks. That tracks. Okay, we got 3 more questions. You only need to get 1 more right to be above 500. So another. This is the trifecta of character questions. Last one on specific characters. In Captain America: Civil War, what is the name of the villain that pits Iron Man and Captain America against
Baron Zemo?
There you go.
Will also be appearing in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yes,
spoiler.
I saw that. I was very surprised when I read that.
Oh, and he's going to be in his comic book accurate uniform. Costume, whatever. Purple mask. That's what matters.
All right. Penultimate question.
All
According to Asgardian lore, there are 9 realms. What is the name of the realm that refers to Earth?
Midgard. I just watched Thor Ragnarok like 2 days ago, so if I didn't get that one, that wouldn't be good.
See, you're doing better than I expected. Well, not that I expected. I hoped I would stump you on a couple, and it was looking pretty dicey from the first 4 questions. But you've been pulling them out, so you're
start.
Great. Last question here. This would put you at 7 out of 9, which would be a great score for the first appearance on Mackens Trivia or Mack of All Trades Trivia. In Captain America: Winter Soldier, Sam Wilson recommends Steve Rogers the Trouble Man soundtrack, and he adds it into his list of things to catch up on. What band is also listed in the Notebook? It's the only band. And
the Beatles.
I watched the clip earlier.
The Beatles?
Final answer?
Yeah.
That is not correct.
Really? Wait. No, hold on. I want to guess again. Don't tell me. It won't count.
I didn't give you a double dip lifeline, but yeah, that won't count. But
it's not AC/DC.
I will watch the clip again to make sure the Beatles aren't in there, and that is the popular choice. That's what my girlfriend said. But
I saw a meme earlier this week where They were making fun of it, and I swear I saw the Beatles, but I could be wrong. Is it Led Zeppelin or something?
It's not Led Zeppelin, but funny enough, Led Zeppelin's used in a different movie joke.
Well, that's Far From Home. I love Led Zeppelin. It's AC/DC.
Yeah.
Damn it, Tom Holland.
But in this case, and I am just looking this up again from like watching the clip, make sure the Beatles aren't mentioned. For those that are still watching, the list is I Love Lucy, Television, Moon Landing, Berlin Wall, Up and Down, Steve Jobs, Apple, Disco, Thai Food. Yes, Star Wars is the only thing crossed out.
Star Trek
is still left. The band is Nirvana.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then Rocky was recommended, or I think it says Rocky 2 ? And then he writes Trouble Man soundtrack. So short list for how much time he missed. But in any case, Nirvana, the band, I love that that's in there instead of the Beatles. I mean, come on, Nirvana is clearly better.
Fair enough.
You went 6 for 3, and you had a nice series of polls from questions 5 through 8. So couldn't bring it home for the 7-2 record on these questions, but 6 and 3 still pretty respectable.
I'm a little disappointed in myself. I'm not gonna lie. I have Agamotto. That one's gonna haunt me. What was the other one I got wrong in the beginning?
So I have Agamotto, the AC/DC song "Shoot to Thrill."
Oh, Back in Black and Shoot to Thrill. Yeah.
Well, it's because they use both of those songs in Iron Man, right? Like,
Back in Black is the one in Iron Man 1, and I believe it's also the one that they use in Far From Home to reference Tony. And I think they use it in Avengers as well when he takes over the speaker system.
I double checked that. That one is also Shoot to Thrill. So Avengers.
There it is.
In my boat, I'll ask you that bonus question in Clubhouse probably. So
I love bonus.
I appreciate the 5 people watching. Love you guys and girls. If you are girls watching, I would assume this is most
of you girls. If you are girls,
aka all of Michael's friends. This has been Mack of all trades. We've gone over time. We are late to the clubhouse, but we show up to the clubhouse fashionably late. So we're going to get out of here. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to tune in next